All right, Jim Keys, are you okay with being recorded on a podcast?
Yes, sir.
There goes that liability.
This is I Took a Hike. I'm your host, Darren Mass, founder of Business Therapy Group and part-time wilderness philosopher. Here we step out of the boardrooms and home offices and into the great outdoors, where the hustle of entrepreneurship meets the rustle of nature. In this episode, we take an invigorating hike during the freeze of a winter in Central Park alongside the last CEO of Blockbuster, Jim Keys. Our topics include the freedom of education for our future, the extraordinary climb from impoverished beginnings to the leader of mega brands, and we set the record straight on the real story behind Blockbuster when we close that chapter once and for all when I took a hike with Jim Keys. This episode is sponsored by DeFi Supplements. Are you feeling stuck in a rut? Do you need more energy for the trail? Calibrate is a premium brain health supplement doctor formulated to help with energy, focus, mood, and longevity. Visit defyyourmind.com and use code HIKE for 20% off, and you will defy your expectations.
So you make a decision on this trail. Do you go with traffic or against?
Against.
Against?
Yeah.
All right, then we're going left.
All right.
This is going to be an adventure in New York,
Always.
in the frozen. So we will end up doing most of this loop. We're going to learn all about you. So
Okay.
why don't we get the quick 30, 60 seconds of who is Jim Keys?
Sure. So I should be used to this. I grew up in a house literally with no heat. We had a wood-burning stove.
Okay.
So there's absolutely zero excuse for me to be whining about sub-zero temperatures or 30-degree temperatures. We used to have snow bigger than me, I remember, growing up back in the day.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's one of those things, when you grow up like that, it was actually an adventure. I loved it. It was like camping, you know, full time. And so I never knew that, I didn't know what the word poverty meant, you know.
Nothing
like that.
Were you impoverished growing up?
Yeah, I didn't realize it, but apparently we were. We didn't have running water. We had a pump outside.
Well, that's actually interesting. It's a good question. If people who are not living in the confines of cities, but outside in rural areas, if they realize when they're growing up as children, if they are living in poverty, or you just don't know any different.
No, you don't know. In fact, I've got a great story. One time, I had the privilege of sitting on the board of the American Red Cross. Did a lot of work with them. We were on a mission one time, and we were out in Vietnam, in this really rural area, remote area in Vietnam, and we were bringing mosquito netting, things like that. And we went into this village. All the little huts had dirt floors, and I distinctly remember it was such a striking contrast because here we were, a group of Americans, several board members, and some donors, big donors, and one of the women said, "How awful, look how these poor people are living." And I thought, I was probably the only one that could really appreciate this.
Yeah.
They were happy. They were like, these were the happiest people I've ever seen. Now, they were happy because they probably had never seen Americans before.
Yeah.
But they were truly filled with joy. And they had no idea how poor they were, you know? But it didn't matter.
It's interesting. They didn't have a comparable.
Yeah, no
So
comparable.
I experienced something similar. I took a 3-week hiatus in my 20s in Peru. And on our way to Cusco, we passed through all of these towns where the poorest of the poor people I've ever seen. And just, you could see them laughing. And everyone was so happy. And
Yeah.
here I am thinking of my American life and how this just didn't equate. And I didn't truly understand the power of happiness in human connection.
Yeah.
Because I was still stuck on happiness is materials and things and wants and desires. But it's quite refreshing to realize that you can find happiness in everything.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, in fact, it's a big theme of my book, is that, you know, we equate money and material things to freedom, But my book talks about really education being freedom, because the more you learn, the more you can do, and the more you do, the freer you are.
That is absolutely true. It's the purpose, and that's kind of the pursuit of this podcast. And everything I've been doing after the exit of a company was I lost my purpose and my direction.
Yeah.
And, I'll say this, in this sense, man who loses their purpose, right, in the Confucius style sense, man who loses their purpose has no value.
Yeah.
Right? And you get really depressed. And I'm with you on that. Once you find your way, it's just life becomes more exciting.
Absolutely.
So I want to dive into your career a little bit because you have a very interesting past.
I've had some adventures.
Yeah. And I know we're going to hear some good stories. I don't want to dive into, the epic Blockbuster just yet.
Good.
A little of your background, though. 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
You were the chairman and CEO of 7-Eleven, correct?
I was president and CEO.
President
yeah.
and CEO,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. And it was a very, very interesting adventure, career journey, if you will, because I joined the company. I was there for like 21 years.
Okay.
And joined the company on the planning side to be able to help them turn around an oil company that they had acquired called Citgo Petroleum.
7-Eleven had an oil company?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most people forget this.
Okay. Well, I didn't know this.
Yeah. Well, they acquired a company called Citgo Petroleum. And it was the downstream operation of City Service, the major oil company.
Okay.
And so I had been previously, like right out of grad school, working for Gulf and Chevron, and had the opportunity to take over the planning function for Citgo when Southland acquired it.
Okay.
So it's kind of a
So is that what brought you to Texas?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was. It's a much simpler story than I'm making it. But the Southland Corporation needed gasoline supply for their 7-Eleven stores. So they acquired this company, which was the refining and marketing element of City Service, called Citgo.
Hence,
Yeah.
the epiphany. It just hit.
Yeah.
We weren't so creative with our naming.
Yeah.
All right, so Citgo was City Service. Okay.
So Citgo now, part of 7-Eleven, a subsidiary of the Southland Corporation.
Okay.
And I had a chance to leave the major oil company and join them to do a turnaround on Citgo Petroleum,
Okay.
which we did. We were able to turn it from losing money to making money.
That's a positive.
That's positive.
Return shareholder value.
Exactly.
Okay.
We then sold that subsidiary to the government of Venezuela.
Okay.
So Citgo today is a Venezuelan-owned oil company.
So I remember hearing that
Yeah.
when there was some strife with Venezuela a few years back.
Right.
And then there was a call to boycott Citgo because it was Venezuelan.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we sold Citgo to the government of Venezuela, but kept a supply agreement for the stores, which was the original reason for buying the company.
Got it. So 7-Eleven didn't always have petroleum and gasoline.
Correct.
Okay.
Back in the day, they had just stores, and then in the 70s and 80s, gasoline became really a big convenience item.
Hence the convenience aspect of the convenience store.
Right. Exactly.
And it was a perfect addition to a store that already had everything that you wanted to buy conveniently anyway.
Exactly.
So where does the name 7-Eleven come from?
It came from the back in the trying to think, probably the 60s. I may not have that date right. They had gone from being open various hours to, they decided that from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. would be more convenient.
Oh,
Right,
okay.
right.
Okay, I got it. It's
Yep.
unlike CVS, who really doesn't know its name. I actually worked at CVS for quite a bit of time, and it was in the manual. It said it was customer value service, customer value store,
Yeah.
whatever we are.
Yeah.
It's just CVS now.
Yeah. I remember the first CVS in Massachusetts. I remember they had the name Consumer Value Store.
Yeah. And then it was customer value store.
Yeah.
Then they just kept playing with it. It was
Yeah.
probably somebody's initials, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Charlie.
It's Charlie Venezuela.
Yeah.
So how long were you at 7-Eleven?
21 years.
So it was the full 21 years. Why did you leave?
We sold the company to our largest licensee, 7-Eleven Japan, who had really perfected the model. They transformed the business when they took on the license. And if you've ever been to a 7-Eleven
I have.
in Japan,
Oh, not in Japan.
oh yeah, you got to do it. It's amazing.
Well, I got to go to Japan first.
Yeah, it's a good start.
I have a 10-year-old daughter that wants to go to Japan.
Take her. It's a great experience, great learning experience. And the stores are phenomenal. They have you really use technology to improve their distribution systems and ordering systems, so they deliver to each store 3 times a day.
That doesn't surprise me. The Japanese operations mind,
Right,
when they're running
exactly.
businesses, they run it extremely efficiently. They
Exactly.
practice Kaizen, little small incremental changes for monumental gains.
Exactly.
The most efficient company builders there is.
Exactly. So the result is that you can get fresh sushi in a 7-Eleven store. And I know the immediate reaction is, convenience store sushi.
I've shied away from convenience store
Yeah, you
sushi, except for hungover moments.
You would not in Japan. You'd be amazed that it is restaurant quality,
Okay.
probably superior to most Japanese restaurants here in the United States,
Okay.
which is hard to imagine, but it's true.
Well, that'll be on the mark when I do end up going to Japan to eat some 7-Eleven sushi.
Yeah, you got to try it. It's literally world-class restaurant quality, great stuff. People in Japan use those stores 3 times a day. They go for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So it is very convenient.
Very convenient.
So they've got the operations down perfectly. And do they own the licensees in the U.S. as well?
They bought the entire company. They were a licensee of 7-Eleven for years. And 7-Eleven ran into some financial issues in around 1991. Did a leveraged buyout that didn't work so well.
Okay.
And by
Your tutelage?
No. I was running the gasoline division. The gasoline division actually performed quite well, which really gave me the opportunity coming out of a restructuring to be the head of strategic planning for the new entity going forward. That was a big career break because I had gone from planning to operations to running their retail gasoline business. Had a very good run. We exceeded all of our forecasts and we're making great money for the company. And then coming out of the restructuring, they asked me to be head of strategic planning for the whole entity going forward. Big opportunity.
I would say that's a huge opportunity. And well, obviously you sold it, so I would say the shareholders and the board was very happy with.
Well, that was just the first step, actually. From there, they gave me the privilege of being CFO. So I was able to then finance the plan that I was able to help build. And then from CFO, they made me Chief Operating Officer. I was able to execute the plan.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a great opportunity.
They promoted you throughout, and which is interesting to me as someone who focuses on companies, putting the right people in the right seat.
It's critical.
You know, and first time I got promoted to being a manager, my manager had told me, just because you're a great employee doesn't make you a great manager. You're going to need to learn a whole new set of skills. So for you to go from the president of one division to all of a sudden a CFO, which requires a vast difference of skills, to now operations, another set of skills, the fact that you were able to commingle in between and see success is quite impressive.
You've just described my book, because literally education is freedom. I had to learn in each of those positions. I had to deal with change, bankruptcy. Most people had their head down. Oh, woe is me. Company's going to go away. I worked harder, had my head up. We'll get through this, deal with change, have confidence.
Gets a bad rap. Bankruptcy is a reset. It is a tool that the government allows you for being part of the corporate program.
It is.
Right? You are allowed. That's the plus and minuses of doing business. Is the fact that you're going to be a corporation and get government protections, and you have to accept the bankruptcy rules.
Yeah.
And there's a restructuring. Chapter 7 is restructuring, not going out of business.
Exactly. chapter 11. Chapter 7.
I'm sorry,
Chapter 7 is actually going out of business.
7 is going out of business. Chapter 11, we'll scrap that.
Yeah.
Chapter 11 is restructuring, and Chapter 7 is going out of business. Chapter 11 is the bankruptcy that most people are aware of.
Right.
And big companies, little companies alike, they all go through it. And it offers protection, stay protections from your vendors, from just turning off the lights.
Now, it's not a preferable thing. No one wants to go through it, but it does allow you to reset, and companies can come out of it with a new life and the ability to go forward.
Many do, and coming from the telecom industry, I'm very familiar with bankruptcy protection and resets.
Well, and that's what we did with Blockbuster. We took it in to be able to deal with the debt in the 2008 financial collapse, and we're able to restructure the company, come out with Dish Network as our strategic partner, our owner of the business.
Yeah, Dish Network ended up buying Blockbuster, correct?
Yeah.
So you brought it up, so we're going to obviously talk about the elephant in the room, Blockbuster. I have my own theories that I will share, but I want to see if they line up.
So does everyone. 90% of them are wrong, but go ahead, let's hear yours.
Well, I'm not ready to go there yet, because I think my theory does paint a better picture of what transpired.
All right.
So you come in. What year do you come into Blockbuster?
Came in 2007.
2007. Okay, so this is after the challenges, we'll say.
They had already had some pretty severe challenges, and by the way, to put this to bed, because there's an active rumor out there all over the internet that Blockbuster turned down Netflix. That happened in the year 2000, 23 years ago.
So let's jump ahead to that, because this is where my theory is. So in 2000, the CEO and the board of Blockbuster was presented with an opportunity to buy the Red Envelope Company.
Right.
Okay.
Now, I don't know for sure how that transpired, but the discussion did happen. Yeah.
The discussion happened, and we can make some guesses of what happened in that closed boardroom session or whatnot. They're not a threat, they are a threat. They'll go away, we'll squash them like a bug, whatever. Right, but they turned it down.
Yeah.
Now, many would view that was the worst decision Blockbuster could have made.
Yeah.
Now, this is before...
With the benefit of hindsight.
Oh, yeah, hindsight.
If you were there in 2000 and you saw what Netflix had, they had a good idea.
They had a great idea.
To do DVDs by mail. Yes. But Blockbuster actually had a more robust infrastructure to be able to satisfy that same model.
That's right.
They had distribution centers. They could easily ship DVDs. They had stores that you could use to exchange them for the one you wanted. Yes. So Blockbuster actually had an advantage in the year 2000, strong advantage.
And being the bigger player,
right.
I imagine they kind of laughed it off. Like, we don't need this unless we want to put the threat out of business.
Probably. I know I wasn't there, but I think they took it seriously, but I don't think they could see the value at the time.
At the time.
Yeah, which probably most of us would not have.
So this is where my theory goes, and I think by our discussion we'll be able to put it to bed, so anyone who is a hindsight armchair quarterbacker can shut up about it.
Perfect. Yeah,
okay.
That would be great.
So this is 2000, which is way before streaming.
Way before.
And now, coming from the telecom world, we didn't have the internet connectivity, the infrastructure, the network components to allow quality streaming.
Not at all.
Right? We were probably still in the phase where we're looking at our computer wondering if the picture of Pam Anderson is a knee or an elbow.
Right.
Okay?
We were in DOS environment, right, with the green screen and the little blinking cursor.
So if I'm in Blockbuster boardroom land, and I'm being presented with this Netflix option, I see a brilliant idea. I see the opportunity for us as Blockbuster to grow without them. Sure. But there's nothing else there. I'm turning it down. Now everyone's looking at Blockbuster today saying, look at what, or Netflix today saying, look at what Blockbuster could have had.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have. If Blockbuster had acquired Netflix, it would have fizzled out, burned, disappeared, and Netflix would not be who... Okay, we'll do that again. That was a good one, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, I might leave that in, thank you. Just go to the toilet with Netflix. No, but if Blockbuster had acquired Netflix, it would not be what it is today. It's impossible because there's probably little chance that Blockbuster would have pivoted to streaming services.
Right.
Netflix had no choice but to pivot to create the brand they are.
Exactly.
And that should hopefully put the argument to bed. Blockbuster would have done nothing with Netflix. It would have just fizzled, gone away. And there you have it.
Well, I'll give you even another comparison. Blockbuster, to also put to bed the idea that Blockbuster management never saw streaming coming. Most people don't realize, well, they could, because we all knew back in the day that the technology would be there. We just didn't know when.
Okay.
So Blockbuster actually had a deal that very few people know about with they had a deal that very few people know about with Enron.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, do tell.
Yeah. No, and this is fascinating. Think about it. Enron saw this coming. They had technology. Blockbuster had the brand and the business. Enron said, let us build the streaming future for you.
Okay.
And actually worked on it. They partnered up. Now, take that example and the Netflix example.
Yeah.
And it was about the same vintage.
Yeah.
And say, well, what if Blockbuster partnered with Enron and went all in and bought them? Or if they bought Blockbuster, where would they be today?
Well, we know the fate of Enron.
Yeah, exactly. So but
It would have caught up regardless.
it shows you that it's so easy to look back and say, well, coulda, woulda, shoulda.
What also shows you that all roads for Blockbuster led to potentially nowhere.
No, not true. Not true. Now that's where I have to differ. The reason I joined in 2007 is that I saw at 7-Eleven the power of technology. Mm-hmm. I had the advantage of our Japanese licensee transforming the convenience retail business with technology. Okay. And I saw that same opportunity for Blockbuster. Now, it wasn't as easy as coming in saying, we're going to go streaming tomorrow morning. Because as you said, the infrastructure wasn't there. Customers weren't there yet.
We didn't know what we didn't know.
Correct. Sort of to timestamp this, the iPhone was launched in 07.
Yes.
iPad not till 09.
Yep.
So people had a hard time even envisioning watching movies on their little itty bitty screen.
That's right. We were getting used to the fact that text was actually enjoyable and we could take a photo from our phone.
Yeah, exactly. We were using Blackberries back in the day.
Oh, there's another case study.
Yeah, exactly. We talked to BlackBerry about partnering on an iPad-like device. So Blockbuster had the opportunity. They had the brand. Here's the way I looked at the business. Convenient access to media entertainment. They weren't renting DVDs. Yes, they were for a window of time. But what Blockbuster really provided the customer was convenient access to media entertainment. That demand wasn't going anywhere. Now, could they pivot and make that transition? Yes. So why didn't we?
Yeah.
That's your question for me.
So why didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Good, right on cue.
I love that.
Because what everyone also forgets is that in the year 2008, the whole world collapsed. Lehman Brothers melted down.
Yes, with a CEO with a very appropriate name.
Yeah.
Dick Fold.
Yeah. I love it.
You can't make that name
Can't
up.
make that up. I know.
It's an amazing story.
But now going back to 2008, by the third quarter, Blockbuster had bought a streaming video company, MovieLink, had rebranded it Blockbuster On Demand. We had 3,000 titles.
I remember that, yes.
Yep, new releases, something Netflix didn't have. Mm-hmm. We had the infrastructure there, ready to go. We had something called Total Access, stores, kiosks, online or by mail, and streaming. Mm-hmm. Everybody forgets that.
Yep.
So what happened?
Yeah.
Well, we also had $1 billion of debt.
Ah, yeah, that debt.
Yeah.
Saddlebag you.
Where'd the debt come from? Viacom spun the company out as a public company in 2004 and put $1 billion of debt on it when they did. Perfectly reasonable. Blockbuster was a cash flow machine. Yeah. So there was no reason to worry about that debt, but for the timing. 2004, 5-year term, 2009. What no one knew is the financial markets in 2009 would be collapsed when it came time to refinance that debt.
If you had known that, we would have had a very different outcome, but
Very
can't
different
time
outcome.
the markets.
Right. So, could I have done anything differently? Yes. When I joined the company in 2007, my idea in joining, and the reason I got to Blockbuster is I was trying to take it private. Partner with PE, take it private, do the transformation outside of the glare of the quarter by quarter public markets.
Which for those that aren't in the know, working at or for a public company is just daunting.
Very challenging.
You are constantly rushing for every single quarter, feeling a mounting pressure to perform. And if you don't perform, well, your stock price.
Right, and when you have a transformation like going from DVDs to digital, it's like driving down the street at 70 miles an hour and changing the tire while the car's going down the road.
Perfect analogy. I love that.
That's what it is. It's hard.
Yeah.
We had the opportunity to go private, and if we did, we would have refinanced all the debt in 2007. Never batted an eyelash at the financial market collapse. We didn't. Wish I had that decision to do over.
Would that be a hindsight decision?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it didn't happen. So we're going to set the record straight here forever.
Yeah.
Blockbuster wasn't going to buy Netflix.
Right.
Even if they bought Netflix, Netflix would not be who they are today. You wouldn't know the name. You would have remembered them nostalgically as the red little envelope company.
Exactly. We probably would have screwed them up because we had big company.
Big company doesn't pivot to small company, integration issues, cultural mismatches, all the reason why acquisitions fail constantly.
Right.
70% of acquisitions fail because of cultural mismatches.
Right.
And there's no way that the giant would have gobbled up this little tiny company and pivoted successfully.
Probably not.
Probably. Right?
May have, but
So
chances are.
that's not the reason why Blockbuster went under. They went under because of the crisis and the inability to pivot fast enough because of a saddlebag of debt,
Correct.
just like many other companies.
It happens. But there's a huge lesson there. The lesson is for all companies, cash flow is your lifeblood.
Cash is king.
Cash is king. And could I have done a better job of managing cash flow? I tried. That's why we were focused on the stores, trying to improve the stores. So I was telling you the timetable, third quarter of 2008, I know I have to refinance the debt. We were really working on cash flow. We doubled EBITDA and tripled net.
Earnings before debt, interest, taxation, amortization, for anyone who doesn't know.
Yes.
It's a fun term that
Surrogate for cash flow, basically.
it really is meaningless in a private company, although we seem to like throwing the term around.
Well, it's good in a private company because it measures your ability to satisfy your debt.
But you could also synergize a whole bunch of things and fluff the number or deflate the number.
Yeah, not as confusing as net earnings at a public companies.
We could throw other terms in there that are very confusing, like free cash flow.
But bottom line is, we dramatically improved the performance of the company in 2008. Had streaming, had all these other things.
You were poised for acceleration.
For acceleration.
Yeah, and then
Moody's actually, this is the rating agency, Standard & Poor's and Moody's, gave us a 2-notch upgrade in our debt rating. That's huge.
that is huge. That is huge.
Yeah. And that all of this occurred in the third quarter release for 2008. But when Moody's gave us that upgrade, Lehman had just collapsed.
Yeah.
And they also gave us, unfortunately, an increase in our probability of default rating.
And that sends the stock in a tizzy. That
Shockwaves.
is, yeah. And that's the other problem of a public company is it's very easy to lose it all and be crushed because investors get sheepish, they get scared,
Oh yeah, exactly.
they freak out, and especially when there's a financial collapse.
Exactly.
Everyone's pulling out of the market.
Fear.
Fear, uncertainty, doubt. Fun fact.
A chapter in my book about fear. Yeah, because fear is a killer of so many companies because employees are afraid, they quit, they shut down, vendors are afraid, they collapse credit terms. That's really, if you want to get right down to the weeds of what happened to Blockbuster, the studios went from 90 days. So we could buy a DVD for $15 and then over the next 90 days, rent it 20 times more than pay for it.
Yeah.
Talk about a cash flow machine,
Yeah.
right?
Huge margin.
Yeah, but when the first studio said, because Moody's now declared you a risk of default, we don't want to be caught, with an outstanding receivable, so we're going to take you to cash terms.
Oh.
And then it was like a house of cards. The other studios.
Cash flow, again, you didn't have enough cash to keep it up.
Well, I sucked $300 million of cash out of the business in a week. Yeah, just like that.
So is that how Blockbuster worked, is that they would almost have a consignment with the studio? Or
More or less, yeah. So because of the terms, the credit terms, and it wasn't really a consignment deal, but the credit terms were so favorable that there was never a reason for Blockbuster to file bankruptcy. But for the debt, and then when the credit terms evaporated, the business model collapsed.
Yeah. And the business model really, you had a quick ROI. If you bought the DVD for $15,
Yeah.
What was a rental? I don't recall. Was it $3.99?
Three to five.
All right, so rent it, let's say, between 5 and 7 times, and you have a complete ROI, then everything on your shelf is pure profit.
Yeah, it was a beautiful
100%
business.
margin.
It was a beautiful business. And that's before late fees, which the company eliminated
Loved.
before I got there.
Well, I bet the company loved late fees.
Well, it was a love-hate thing.
Well,
Customers didn't like
it's
it.
like any business, right? It's an
Yeah.
aging process.
Yeah, it's your inventory.
You want your customer between 30 and 60 day payable because you get that extra late fee, which is pure profit.
Right.
But you want them to pay it.
Yeah, if they don't.
wants the book back.
Yeah, exactly. If they don't, you have to buy another book.
Yeah. Right. And there's extra work there, but that late fee is just pure bottom line profit.
Yeah, it was $80 million of EBITDA, of cash flow. Yeah, that one.
late fees.
Yeah, just in late fees.
As a telecom provider, I used to like late fees as well. We were making something like $80,000 a month
Yeah.
in late fees. And as long as you were in arrears for less than 90 days, we were happy. Anything over that, we have to start chasing.
Right.
And it's power. You become a bank.
Yeah.
You're lending your product, your service, or your dollars out, and you need to get paid for it.
So the customers were annoyed by it, understandably, but the irony is, Reed Hastings said he started Netflix because he was annoyed over late fees.
Yeah.
Well,
How many late fees could you have had? Yeah, it's a good story.
I think he can afford it, I think.
I think so.
Yeah. But realistically, Blockbuster could have just said, well, do DVDs by mail, no late fees, just like Netflix.
Done.
Yeah.
Well, that's where a great idea comes, right? You take
Yeah.
someone else's issue and you can make it into an advantage for yourself.
But that was one of those management decisions that I think hurt the company pretty badly.
Yeah.
Because they didn't get what they thought was sales are going to respond immediately.
Yeah.
People will be thrilled and no late fees, so they'll all come back to the stores.
I remember the ads, the marketing around the just rent it and just return it whenever. What do you mean whatever? Return it whenever, no late fees.
Yeah, I just got a $15 DVD.
But it's also a way, though, if you forgive the late fee, and this does happen occasionally, if you forgive the late fee, it's another way to build up client success.
They feel good.
Right? They feel good about it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I follow Mark Randolph on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and he had just done a video, maybe last week, about how the worst moment of his life was when Blockbuster decided not to move forward with an acquisition.
Really?
And it turned out to be, hindsight, the best moment of his life.
Yeah.
But in a way, if Blockbuster didn't turn that down, it would not have fueled Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph to have the fire in their belly to say, oh yeah,
Right.
we're gonna prove you wrong.
Sure.
All of this is a success story in itself.
Yeah.
Case study and success story, but now the record has been set straight.
Yeah.
And hopefully people who listen to this understand this is how business works. This is the evolution of life.
Absolutely.
I will say though, that at Blockbuster, it was near and dear to my heart. I think we all, in a nostalgic way, miss going with our family to go pick out a VHS,
Yep.
right? Smell of that popcorn and the candy.
It was great.
We miss that. I would love to see that again. And do you know, I don't know if you've paid attention since, but do you know when the last Blockbuster store had closed down?
Well, it's still open. Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're still open.
Oh. Well,
Yeah.
On
She is.
Wikipedia,
They have her closed down in
Oh, really?
19.
I think I'm pretty sure she's still there.
it is
But it's
quite
a, it's a story of persistence.
Yes.
Because she was not willing to accept they were going to close her store. So
She's like
the
that
whole
last
media campaign.
she's like the last Japanese soldier from
Yeah,
World War II
yeah,
that finally
exactly.
stopped fighting in 1975.
exactly.
Right? Finally got the message.
She lobbied the company, went to Dish, said, "I'm staying open. I want to keep the brand."
Yeah.
Netflix has a special on it. They have
Yeah.
a documentary.
Yeah, it's
on it,
hysterical.
which is amazing. So fun fact, you probably don't know this, but I was an employee of Blockbuster
Oh, no kidding.
for 6 hours.
Was I there?
No.
Oh, too bad. See, you would have stayed if I was there. You could have had a career. Oh, wait, never mind.
Well, I would have had
Might
to
have been a
pivot.
good decision. Yeah, you would have
So
had to pivot.
it was 1996.
You might have saved us.
No, I don't think
Single-handedly.
I don't think I would have, and here's why. It's 1996. Okay?
Yeah.
Blockbuster required you to go into a Blockbuster headquarters training
Oh, yeah.
for 6 hours. And they paid you for it.
Yeah.
And my salary was $8.75.
Yeah.
1996. Good salary. And I'm sitting through this promotional instructional video, and they're showing you how to do everything, the smile on your face.
Yeah.
And there was this segment on how the manager walks each employee to their car at night because we believe in culture and safety.
Right.
Love it. I'm very happy about it. And then finally, towards the end of the 4-hour video I'm watching, there's a message about how I could work up the career ladder and be a manager of my own. And they showed this guy like waving at the camera
Yeah.
on how happy he was because he was there for 8 years and now he's a manager.
Yeah.
And in my head, I was just like, oh, hell no. That is not my life. I don't want that. So I finished my 6-hour training and I called and I said, yeah, I can't work for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you know how relevant that is today, because there's a narrative today that you don't need college, you don't need, all you need to do is just go to work for somebody and be an entrepreneur. And I had a chance, the same thing. I had a chance to go to Hamburger U. McDonald's wanted me to be a store manager. And it was tempting. I mean, you were making $8 an hour. I was making $1.75 flipping burgers. Yeah, so I'm a little older, just a little older than you.
Yeah.
But $1.75.
Probably the time value, it equated.
Exactly
You
what
would
it
have won
was.
the big cheese.
And,
Sorry, more
and
dad jokes.
yeah, I could have been. I might have been CEO of McDonald's, but I might not have been too.
Yeah.
Probably not.
Well, you can't change things, but yeah.
But the time value of money, people forget. College then was $7,500 a year. Now in today's dollars, that's 50 grand.
Yeah.
So everybody's like, "Oh, college is so expensive."
Yeah, we remember a Coke as a nickel.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
but back then the average income was like $300 a year, right? Whatever it was.
So college was insurmountable for me. And the McDonald's University was tempting, and I almost did it.
Yeah.
Same experience you had.
Your life
I
would
was
have been-
like, wait a minute, is that really what I want to do?
That's right. There's these little things that just eat away at you where you're like, yeah, that's not going to be me. I'm not going to be Jared on this Blockbuster video.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But it's the hustle and grit that gave you that little instinct. No, well, that's the different chain.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's Subway. That guy was just
Yeah.
bad news.
Yeah, you don't want to be him.
Another documentary, and if you painfully watch it, you'll see that guy was really messed up.
Yeah.
Guy, yeah, he's where he should be. but yeah, it's interesting, that hustle and grit. Now, you mentioned everyone's about entrepreneurship, and that's what I'm about.
Yeah.
This year, 2024, is all about the solopreneur. The fact that since we are working remote, you don't have to work for someone else. You could actually do something for yourself. You're not your own boss. I hate that term.
Yep.
You're your own manager.
'Cause you still have bosses.
Your
You have
employees,
bankers,
right?
you have
Yeah.
employees, you have stakeholders. Yeah.
You report to everyone. You report to
Yeah.
your spouse. You report to yourself.
Yeah.
You hold yourself accountable.
Yeah.
You are your own manager. But now more than ever, you can do anything that you want with or without a college degree.
Yeah.
And I think the collegiate model has been forever tarnished, especially lately with what's going on. We don't need to go into politics of it, but it's been exposed.
But let me challenge that for a minute. Because, here I've written this book called Education is Freedom, and I'm getting a lot of people saying, you don't need college anymore, right? Here's my concern. And I may be tainted because I came from a Fortune 500, company to running 400,000 employees. And when you've got that many employees and you have to choose, it's really hard to make those decisions without that, brand behind them. Where'd they go to school? What did they accomplish?
The pedigree.
Yeah, exactly. Now,
It almost self-selected for you.
it did. Now we can become a country of entrepreneurs, but my fear is right now we're in a really fertile environment for entrepreneurs. A lot of money on the sidelines. There's a lot of ways to grow businesses, technology, but you're an outlier. You're one that has become successful. Can everybody, you're kind of like a Michael Jordan. And how many kids go in and say, I'm going to be a professional basketball player? You know, it's a lot harder.
So I did go to college.
Yeah.
I worked my ass off. I didn't realize that I had brains or intelligence until my last 2 months of high school.
Yep.
When there was a moment that made me wake up. I went to the community college. I realized that, wait, I like this.
Yep.
I went to school. I became an engineer. Went into telecom. But I was always a hustler and an entrepreneur at heart from an early age. So
That's the prerequisite. That's the prerequisite.
So to your point, not everyone can be Kobe. Not everyone can be Michael Jordan. Not everyone can be a star. But if you're complaining because you don't like working for someone else, then take action and stop complaining.
Yeah.
I do agree with you. Especially in big companies, hiring that pedigree, college, what does it do? You get your partying out of your system, you learn to be an adult, you master a craft or a trade if you go to a specific school, right? Whatever you do at college, the fact you graduated tells your employer that you are dedicated and have stick-to-itiveness.
Exactly. Right? It's a brand. It becomes part of your brand identity.
It's a brand. But if you're muddling your way through college and you have an idea, we have countless examples of dropouts.
Oh, yeah.
That are very acceptable.
Exactly.
We're accepted and successful, right? You have Steve Jobs,
Yep.
Bill Gates, and countless others that said, you know what, college ain't for me.
Right.
But I do believe in the value of education as well.
Yeah, and I do worry because, step back from this and look at the global landscape. We've got other countries that are really doubling down on education and formal education, and we're not.
We are I don't think we're last, but it seemingly feels like we're last.
We're not in the top 10 industrialized nations in college graduation, and we're on our test scores like science and math. This way, science, math.
It's abysmal.
It's abysmal.
It's embarrassing. I see.
Where does America stand? Because what got us to where we are as a global leader in corporations and in government is having that educated populace.
Yes.
And if we slide backwards and other countries double down on education, where does that leave America and our ability to be globally competitive for our companies? Yeah.
We have slipped. The average IQ is a 100.
Yeah.
It was made 100 because people understand that 100 is winning.
Yeah.
Okay. The average person reads on a 7th grade reading level in this country.
Yeah.
It's not a knock. That's just average.
reality.
Average is the everyday person.
Yeah.
And if you look at Asian countries, cultures, it is way north of that.
Exactly.
And we cannot compete on the work ethic and the education level anymore. And we need to get back to that.
We need to get back to that. And that's the whole purpose of the book it's a call to action for individuals and corporations. And you know what? Here's the solution. I don't just identify the problem, I talk about the solution.
That's right.
We have always led the world with technology. We transformed retail with Amazon, transformed transportation. We're transforming space, right? Why aren't we applying the same technology to school, to education, learning and teaching? We can take AI, and with AI, we can modify the way we teach you, because you may learn visually, I may learn with the written word, but AI can modify that curriculum and then measure your results so that you're continually learning more. So it's almost the AI for people, It's like artificial intelligence for us, so we learn better and more effectively.
Well, it's a system, it's a tool, it's the calculator when we're trying to figure out the tip on a bill, right?
Yeah.
We can use it productively to help us become a little more superhuman if possible.
Exactly.
Although I do have concerns that it will be used nefariously because
Oh, yeah.
every tool gets in the wrong hands.
Of course.
You know,
So here's the question, though. Did you see Oppenheimer?
yes, Oppenheimer frustrated me.
Yeah, frustrated me too. But the thing I didn't know about Oppenheimer is I didn't realize how much they believed that this technology would bring peace to the world, because it was so devastating
Yes.
that humans would not want mutual mass destruction, right? Well, it didn't work out. It ended up being an arms race. We all know what happened.
They did not understand the human desire for evil in some minds.
Right, exactly. So the question is, will AI present humanity with that same opportunity to bring peace to the world?
I think we can come up with an answer here.
Well, you know, it's interesting.
me once.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because every military friend I have says it's impossible. It's going to go to the strongest military, you know, to use it, to weaponize it.
It is.
Just like drones and robots and everything else that we have, it will go to the strongest.
Yeah, but
Technology.
here's my question. The first time it gets out of control, and the first time machine learning actually dominates human beings, will that be our wake-up call for humanity?
No.
Well, I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too, but it's, again, you know, we can play hindsight, armchair quarterback and all that. We have too many examples where human beings don't put up the stop sign until the accident happens, and then sometimes it's too late.
Well, that's what I'm hoping, that if there's an accident, does that bring the world together to say, all right, guys, we have to work together now.
I am a bleeding optimist.
Yeah.
Everything I do publicly,
Relentless positivity.
relentless, because that's the way I choose to live my life now. I don't get sucked in by the negative head trash of the news and the environment or that political friend of yours that hates this or loves that. Whatever. I don't believe it. I don't buy it.
Yeah.
But I do know, oh man,
That's so cute.
I do know humanity and how people think.
Yeah.
And we have a track record of proven results where the negative takes place. I don't think that we will stop this train because of one thing. We are a greedy animal.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when we weaponize things, there's more profit.
Yeah.
I do think that AI will go out of control, and there will be a wake-up call, yes, but I think it'll be too late. I unfortunately think that the Terminator might have been right.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm sorry, doom and gloom, but you and I will
drink.
be here anymore.
We better go have a drink now because you just spit
have a
it.
few.
I think it won't be during our lifetime, will it?
I don't. So that part I can't predict. If I could do that, I could have predicted a lot of other things, right? But no, you see it happening today.
It could happen.
You know, people are using it the wrong way. But it is beneficial. It is augmenting our capabilities. It is shortcutting things. Now more than ever, you can start a business and you don't need to hire 3 or 4 different roles, right? I used to have a friend that I would send anything marketing-wise over to edit. Now I can send it to ChatGPT to edit.
Sure.
I can, I post a lot on LinkedIn daily, multiple times. I use Grammarly to fix my grammar.
Yeah.
Right? I wasn't a great writer growing up. I told you I didn't pay attention in high school. I didn't learn where to put a comma. I didn't learn the Chicago system where you could put a comma before and after and.
We all struggled with that a little.
So now Grammarly has fixed it, but to the point where I have taught myself now.
Yeah.
Now it prides me when I find out that I'm 99% accurate or even sometimes 100% accurate. So I've taught. But I do see that it is going to be too big of a crutch for too many people. And eventually the machine, the AI, will write code for itself.
Yeah.
And that's where the bad stuff happens. That's the Skynet.
So here's literally why I wrote the book.
By
Because
the way, what is the name of the book?
thank you. Education is freedom.
Education is Freedom. I will subscribe to that one for sure.
Yeah, and it's a call to action for individuals to take learning in their own hands, because there's no excuse today. With the power of just existing technology, you're struggling with algebra, Khan Academy's free. You know, you put in the time, you can learn anything you want online. So that's the call to action to the kids. But the call to action to humanity, literally, is that the answer to all of this stuff is ultimately educating the world. And this sounds cliche, but if you could replace bombs with books, then you replace terrorists with teachers, right? I mean, I know that's
goal.
ridiculously simple. Yeah, it's very lofty and very Pollyannish. But it's true in essence that if we dial up the knowledge of humanity, think about what we're doing today. Conventional warfare is an anachronism. I mean, we're out there with tanks blowing each other up. It's like
There's no lines anymore.
there's no lines. So is it possible to elevate the overall knowledge of humanity to the point that we can get beyond this, archaic way of behaving, and find other solutions? Now, I know that's crazy, but
I think it's a little grandiose just knowing that we do have fundamentalist thinking in other cultures.
of course.
And I think you're coming at it from an American lens,
Yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
this is the land of opportunity.
Yeah.
You could do anything, and anyone who laughs at that and says bullshit, no. You could do anything you want to do if your drive is in the right direction.
Yes, exactly. But even worldwide, much of the
Slip on
fundamentalism.
here, by the way.
Yeah, I got it.
We're on an icy patch.
Yeah. Much of the fundamentalism that we deal with in the world stems from the ability to control those who have no future. They have no education. They have no economic status. So, and this is my question, can technology quickly enough bring knowledge to the globe? I mean, worldwide. There are more cell phones in the continent of Africa than in the United States. There's greater penetration. And that cell phone is a portal to knowledge, to information. So can we light up those portals and help people learn in a way that's never been experienced by humanity?
So what would the learning, so let's say you're in a fundamental Islamic culture, an extremist culture, and I'll clarify, not all Islamic people are extremists.
Right.
Okay. But you are in an extremist culture.
Yeah.
How could lighting up affect change?
Simple answer, and this is too grandiose and too naive that I believe this, but
Thanks for the preface.
yeah, I have to say that. But critical thinking goes all the way back to the earliest days of man and the Greek philosophers and Plato asking why and challenging conventional wisdom, whether it's conventional religion or just conventional science or conventional politics. That critical thinking element is something that we're not practicing worldwide as much. Even here in the United States, you see it happening.
Well, we succumb to our position. We get lazy. And then again, with the average 100, right? This is not equating 100 to lazy, but because there are so many people that just immediately doubt that they could be a leader, an entrepreneur, a business owner, a successful person, they get lazy and fall prey to that. That becomes the doubt.
Right, exactly.
I tell my kids all the time, when you say can't, you absolutely won't.
Exactly.
You have the ability to do anything. Yes, there are lucky scenarios that we can put ourselves in, take ourselves in and out of luck. We create luck to an extent.
Yeah.
You are lucky if you're born into a specific family or demographic or country or culture. Yes, that is your one stroke of luck that can set you up with an easier or better hand.
Correct.
But what you choose to do with that is up to you. There are plenty of super wealthy families that have super wealthy babies from the start, and those super wealthy babies turn out to be pieces of garbage and live horrible lives.
Yeah, yeah.
You could say they were lucky born in the family, or that is what destroyed them, right? You can say, and we've had many examples of people that grew up in the horrible, the worst situations possible. Absentee mother,
Right.
no father, call it whatever you want, and they have risen to success Damon John is a good example of that. Grew up very impoverished.
Yeah.
Look at what he created. He created, right? So you create your own fortune, and if you allow yourself to say, I can't because, then you absolutely won't.
Exactly.
So-
Chairman of the American Red Cross, Bonnie McElveen Hunter. She's an amazing woman. Created Pace Communications. She's been the longest running chairman of the Red Cross ever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she tells a story. Her mom took she and her daughter and her sister out in the backyard and made them write "can't" on a piece of paper, and they buried it in a box.
Oh, I might try that with my kids.
Yeah, it's a cool story.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah,
'cause-
I got a good book.
Yeah, well, I'm absolutely going to read the book. By the way, you are the most polite guest I've ever had. Because you kept saying my book, you were referencing, but you didn't throw it out there. You were waiting for me to do it, which is awesome. And I will say this too, you are not sponsoring this show.
No.
I do not allow guests to sponsor their show or their episode. It's disingenuous to me.
Well, and I'm not making money on this book. My objective is
I'm not making money on this podcast. Look at that.
good.
We're in the same boat.
No, my objective is to get the word out, because I really do believe that humanity is at a crossroads here, but that I'm more optimistic about the future of humanity, because I do believe, and I've seen the power of technology to light people up. I'm gonna give you a great story. A friend of mine, Will Talley, I put him in the book, and Will was one of those kids.
By the way,
Hated
great
school.
name.
Yeah,
Will Talley.
William Talley.
It sounds like he's very stately.
He is Midwest farm boy, about 6'5", good kid. Grew up wholesome American values, but he hated school. And he was like B-, C+, maybe in grammar school. He was struggling. His mom was worried about him. So he talked to him, and well, what do you like? He was constantly playing video games, mostly war games, and he was looking at YouTube videos. And I was like, hey, Will, don't you think you could use those YouTube videos, if you like looking at World War II stuff, to supplement your education? History is all about, looking back. Why don't you use YouTube videos? And he started doing that, and he got so excited that he didn't have to learn history out of a book. It lit him up. He went through high school and ended up with a 4.0 average, and I'm so proud of him. I wrote a recommendation for him to get into Harvard. He's now a sophomore at Harvard, going into his sophomore year.
So that's the alternative learning, almost like a Montessori style learning.
But it's
Everyone's motivated by something else, and everyone, you can learn from almost anything if you're, again, willing to do it.
that's the power of technology. We can light up the world and ignite their curiosity and their critical thinking, all of those things that have laid dormant for so many years.
So you're clearly a pessimist.
Oh yeah, you can tell. Yeah, that bird's alive right there.
Yeah. Whew. So,
Bring him back.
so what fears you the most?
What scares me the most?
What fears do you have? I say it like that, what fears you the most? Because those are the things that hold us back.
I'm going to quote FDR. The only thing we have to fear is fear itself. I'm serious. He gave that in his inauguration speech, and it's so true. We are riddled with fear right now. You turn on any news channel, and it's all about somebody's going to take something from you, do something to you, hurt you, and the one thing no one can take is your knowledge.
Right.
My dad was dirt poor, but he knew that.
What did your father do?
He worked in a factory, made abrasive blocks.
Yeah. Cliche factory worker,
Oh, yeah.
went home, grease,
Off
hand,
white.
yeah.
Still remember the coarseness of his hands from dealing with the abrasives every day.
Wow.
Ended up dying from cancer, probably inhaling all the stuff. But
All too many Americana stories like that.
yeah, but he knew, and he used to tell me as a kid, the one thing they can't take from you is your knowledge. And it was kind of a fatalistic thing, and I always took it a little grain of salt. I thought, I hate to look at the negative like that, but he's right. And
But he was absolutely right.
he was absolutely right. And if you look at the fear that we have worldwide, I use the example of turning a light on in a room when you're a little kid. When you're scared, your mom comes in, she turns on the light, you look under the bed, no monster.
No monster.
I'm not scared anymore. No fear.
Yeah.
Knowledge is light.
Well, so
It's simple.
I think, you know, I'm plagued by this. Many people can relate. When you are at a higher level of education and intelligence, you do become very cynical, right? You start seeing things.
You saying I'm a dummy?
No.
No, I'm kidding.
I'm-
You're right. You're right. Generally, you do. You become
right, because you see the bullshit.
Yeah.
And you don't get easily fooled by it.
Yeah.
Right? I wrote a piece on LinkedIn a few weeks ago about turning off the news. There's a period of time that went by, and ever since I stopped watching the news, I became happier.
Yeah.
Because I started realizing that you're being manipulated. All of these fears, right? I love the FDR quote,
sells.
right? It sells. It's the strongest sense that keeps you glued. We love watching the hurricane on TV. We love watching this bomb and that bomb.
Yeah.
But the reality is,
It's a train wreck.
when I turned off the news, the realization happened.
Yeah.
We live in the best time of humanity that's ever existed, and every day is the better day. And the reason why, we don't have to fear
Yeah.
of getting our tongues cut out for saying something against the king. We don't have to fear our hands, at least in this country, or more modern countries. We don't have to fear our hands getting chopped off for stealing a loaf of bread, or getting arrested, drawn and quartered, or thrown in a barrel lit on fire.
Yeah.
Right? We're not on a witch hunt, right?
Right.
You
What are
can
we
do
afraid of?
whatever you want. What are we afraid of?
Yeah.
Now,
I-
are real fears. Don't
We're
slip.
afraid of falling on
Yes,
the ice.
but if you do, you pop back up. Who
Yeah.
cares? But we throw
And
that.
that's been down.
Uh-oh.
I hope that hasn't been down for a long time. Anybody listening?
We'll find out. I mean, I've been getting it. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't have to fear many things in our protected bubble. It's our choice to embrace the fear, to take it in, or to do something with it by turning it off, ignoring it, and being productive. Yeah.
I mean, let me give you a classic example. We haven't seen this much paranoia about socialism right now as we did going back to the McCarthy days, right? And I'm a capitalist. I mean, I ran 2 Fortune 500 companies.
I would hope you're a capitalist.
Yeah. I don't fear socialism. I mean, if you really believe in capitalism, what are you afraid of? It's a better system. And people are always going to gravitate to the opportunity. Now, will there be zealots are out there that are trying to, convince people otherwise? Of course, it's always been and always will be.
Well, yeah, there are people that it's a misery loves company thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we all kind of feel that way sometimes. It's just natural. Let's go this way. Because then we're hitting the street. We all kind of feel it sometimes where you want, somebody to join you on the bad track, but we can't allow that to win.
That's
Can't allow that.
exactly right. And unfortunately, our leaders across the board, and this is not unique to the United States, it's a worldwide phenomenon. There's only 2 ways to motivate people, with hope or fear.
Yeah.
And fear's easier.
Fear is the easier one. And
It's the
well, we don't have a
slowest
lot to
common
be hopeful for with our leaders. We're not going into politics, but we just don't have a lot of, we don't have you,
Well,
right? If you were the president, no, this is not your bid.
Yeah.
I don't think it is. But if you were the president, someone who is an optimist, someone that has
Purveyor of
run-
hope.
Yes, conveyor of hope. Someone who has run successful large entities, right?
Yeah.
That is what this country needs.
Yeah.
It's not getting it because
but-
you're not insane enough to want to be that guy because that's an insane role.
Well, we're in a weird time, but again, if you believe in democracy, and I'm a student of de Tocqueville and the founding fathers, I believe in democracy. I do believe democracy is self-righting, that the pendulum will swing, and we'll go through these periods, and ultimately, the will of the people will prevail, and we will find that hope again, and to be what Reagan said, the shining city on the hill.
I hope you are right because we are in some troubled waters here. And again, I'm an optimist as well. I do have pessimistic tendencies sometimes because I think my faith in people has depleted as I get older.
Yeah.
And there's lots of examples to draw from on why that would be the case. But I'm hopeful that you are right, because I'd like my kids to live in this great world of opportunity and not have to fear or feel fear for their value system.
Well, and this is why I'm pounding the drum for education, for learning, because going all the way back to Jefferson, the founding fathers recognized, and de Tocqueville, Alexis de Tocqueville came over from France, and he looked at our system and he said, the sustainability of democracy depends on an educated populace. Yeah. And the worst fear we should have is that our population doesn't continue to evolve with learning and education, and we then are vulnerable to being led with fear, more vulnerable.
Do you think there's a such thing as humans being too successful?
Too successful.
Right, I'll preface it.
Yeah.
Every great civilization has crumbled and burned. Right? From the magical, mystical Atlantis to the Roman Empire, the Byzantines, the Ottomans, right, the Greeks.
Yeah.
They all collapse. Many of those being democratic societies.
Yeah.
And is there a such thing where the people have too much control, too much say, and we collapse?
I hope not, but I do think, again, it depends on the evolution of those people. If they continue to evolve and learn, then do they have to collapse? I think what happens is they fall prey to leadership using those lowest common denominators, instilling fear, and then they start to cannibalize from within.
Yeah.
It happens.
It's a parasite.
Yeah.
It infects from within.
You'd think we'd learn from other civilizations that have done exactly the same thing.
So that tails back to the AI conversation of why I think, you can recognize patterns. I don't know how much faith I have in humanity to get this go around right.
Yeah.
I think, unfortunately, sometimes you need to have, the freight train accident before you start looking at safety.
Oh yeah. It's very likely that we'll have to have that catastrophic event, whatever it is. I laugh sometimes. I think about all the buzz over aliens and UFOs and all that stuff. And I'm a space geek, so I've always loved space, right?
Aliens are real.
Yeah, aliens are real.
We're their aliens.
Almost.
Think about it like that.
Oh, I know.
They come here and they're like, whoa, these aliens are weird.
Oh, I like the meme. Have you seen the meme? Aliens going by Earth, they go, lock the doors, we're passing by Earth.
Exactly. Right? I do think it's preposterous and selfish of us to think that we are this, the only life form on this one tiny dot in this one tiny galaxy, in this, out of trillions of other dots and galaxies.
Yeah, I know.
I think the odds are probably not in the favor of being the only thing.
True. But you know what the best thing to happen to humanity could be? An alien race visiting the Earth.
Being like, whoa, pump the brakes, kids.
Yeah.
Let me show you how it's done.
Well, no. No, we'd be like, you know what? I don't care what race you are. I don't care what your religion. We're all humans. Come on, let's hang together. You know?
Yeah, no, something tells me it's going to go down like War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Like, we need your air.
Well, but if it did, it would bring humanity together. That's my point.
Yeah.
You almost sometimes need that external threat to realize how much we have in common.
So extreme example here, because we are in New York City, 9/11.
Yeah.
I remember the exact moment, right? Some people did the JFK, when he was shot, right? It was in that moment of 9/11, which was horrible and horrific, especially as a New Yorker, but everybody came together.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone was flying a flag and proud. Now we are so torn apart and disjointed.
Yeah.
Right, I was with a friend yesterday. His daughter is extremely on one side politically, and he said Christmas was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Couldn't even have a conversation with her.
Yeah.
And he didn't know where it came from. He says she's an anarchist. Right? It's crazy. And that's our world these days.
But it doesn't have to be, and that's the thing.
We just all need to figure it out.
We all need to figure it out, and if we can get back to those fundamental skills, fundamental things we all learned in grammar school.
Yeah.
You know, curiosity about somebody else. Instead of, you know, I mean, how many of these conversations do people actually sit down and go, tell me why you feel that way? You know, let's talk.
Yeah. So I always look at it as the most intelligent people sit in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? They can hear both sides of a conversation and they can kind of figure it out. Take the best pieces of each.
Yeah.
Right? If you look at polarizing topics like pro-life versus pro-choice, I could understand both sides.
Yeah.
If you are religious, I could understand your point.
Right.
Will I agree with it? No. I'm a fan of your body, your choice.
Yeah.
Right? But I could understand and respect where you're coming from.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean I'm going to try to tear you down for your opinion, because that's what it is. It is an opinion, and you are right to have your opinion.
Right.
And I'm not going to try to convince you elsewise. But unfortunately, you know, we live in a black and white world. If you don't like my football team, I don't like your face.
I know.
Right? Where you live, football is life.
But ironically, that's not a democracy. Because a democracy is all about people coming together and compromising.
So maybe we need education on being democratic again.
Well, we kind of do, and that's kind of the point I'm trying to make, that we all grew up flag-waving, proud Americans, believing in the democracy and democratic system, and yet we're not behaving that way. We're behaving like my way or the highway.
Yeah.
I'm right, you're wrong.
And the worst people of all, adults.
I know.
Adults, they act worse than children.
I know. The kids, that's why I've got a lot of hope in the next generation, because they're looking at us going, you guys are crazy.
Yeah, they're the aliens.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, sure, you guys are nuts. But they have TikTok, and TikTok is really, you know, not helping either.
Hey, I'm a fan of TikTok now. I went from 0 to 10,000 followers in 3 weeks with one video.
You have a very important message and a great story to tell, so it doesn't surprise me. No, guys, let's go this way. But no, I've gotten lost in TikTok many a time. In fact, on one of our episodes, we had the head of global security for TikTok, Kim Albarella.
Interesting.
Yeah, great conversation there. So let's get back to the business world.
Sure.
What do you think the most valuable lessons in education are for a budding entrepreneur, or let's say a kid right now deciding college? What classes should I take? What should I study? And what direction should I have? I want to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. I'm a big believer in the liberal arts approach, because at that age, I don't think most of us know what we want to be. And the liberal arts gives you exposure to, you know, a more classical education, rather than specializing very early. I know some kids want to be engineers like you in high school.
Well, yeah, if you know a trade. So I was very motivated by telecom and
so
engineering.
that's fine. Yeah.
I was laser focused, but not everyone's like that.
Most of us don't really know what they wanted. I wanted to be first I wanted to be a doctor. I would have been a terrible doctor. And then I wanted to be a lawyer. I would have been a terrible lawyer.
Something tells me that's not the case.
No, I think I would have. I actually had an intervention. I had a professor, undergrad. He was a history professor. Had me in class for 2 years. Said, "Where are you going to school, Jim?" I told him I got into these 2 law schools, and he's like, "No, you can't. You'll be a terrible lawyer. I've seen you in class for 2 years.
You're too nice."
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but he said, you got to go. Promise me you'll get an MBA, even if you do a JD MBA.
So was that the person that changed your life?
Yeah,
What was his name?
Father Lapamata.
What?
He was a priest, yeah, a Jesuit priest.
Ah.
Lapamata, yeah.
Wow.
And I mean, here's a guy that, thank goodness, he intervened. And you know, I was at Holy Cross undergraduate, and he jumped in and said, "Here's what you need to do."
He knew you too well. So that's the thing, is there's one person in your life that can really set you up or destroy you.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we all have stories. Every successful person has that one Father Lapramata.
Yep.
That's a hard one to say.
Yeah, it is.
It's actually fun to say it, Father Lapramata. It's like music.
Good Italian guy.
Yeah, well, clearly. But there's that one person that just makes the world of difference.
Yeah.
And back to education, I think that's where it starts. Is if you have this pedigree and you are educated, take someone under your wing, mentor them, be that one person for them.
Yeah.
right? And that's where the
Inspire them,
youth
give them
is
hope.
being misled, is because that one person turns out to be a TikTok influencer,
Yeah.
which is not an okay influence for the majority of people.
For the majority, yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, as you said, it can also be a negative influence, and thank goodness I was able to overcome. I had some people in my life who were, telling me, you'll never do anything, you'll never make anything of yourself.
I love that.
Who do you think you are going to college? Well, college material, you can't afford it, you're too stupid.
Factory worker's son. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that story.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, this guy who was with my mom at the time, it's a really negative influence. And if anything, it probably steeled me against listening to that.
I love it.
It's like, no, you're wrong.
That right there is such a critical story of perseverance. I think equally to a Father La Primata, we have someone who we just don't want to prove right.
Right.
And
Right.
I often coach people, if you really want to taste success, you want to really get there, have two targets. Have one that you inspire to be or aspire to be. Have one where they are your role model. You want to show them that you've done it.
Yeah.
And then have another one where you want to triumph and prove them wrong.
Yep.
Or be a little vindictive about where you just want to rub your success in their face.
Yeah.
Right? And that's an okay thing, because that keeps you pushing and pulling in the right direction.
Exactly.
That keeps you just running away just to prove someone wrong and wanting to impress someone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because you're going to have both. You're going to have both influences, negative and positive. And if you can learn from both of them and respond, I talk about change a lot. And it's not the change that occurs, it's the way we respond to change. It's the way we respond to stimulus that comes in, good or bad. That makes all the difference between winners and losers.
That's right. So what brings you the most joy?
Most joy. Well, I've got a whole array of hobbies, from flying to, the arts, and I paint and I write music and I do all kinds of fun stuff. That's one form of joy. I think the most joy is being able to share this idea that, anybody can do anything. And I think we've seen that before. I've had, some amazing opportunities, but the best thing that can happen, I had a kid walk up to me one time in a restaurant. I was checking out the sushi bar. It has branded.
Not at a 7-Eleven?
No, not so. I wasn't in Japan. We don't sell sushi yet here in the United States. But he said, "Are you Mr. Keys?" I asked, "Did you start the Education is Freedom Foundation?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Man, thank you." He shook my hand. It's like, I'm the first kid in my family to ever go to school.
Wow.
He was at Southern Methodist University at the time. He was going to go off to med school or something. And he was just grateful, that we had given him a jump start, made him believe in himself. And that kind of thing happens to you, and it's like the best. Yeah. It's the best, because you realize you're making a difference. Even if it's one life, you're making a difference.
That checks the altruism bucket.
Yeah.
That is phenomenal. I love hearing stories like that, and it's because you decided to invest in a positive path.
Yeah.
And this positive path yielded a great life for you and paid dividends for other people.
Yeah, well, that's the hope. That's the hope. And it's, I get caught up a lot. The lifestyle makes it look like it's all about the money, Because, I fly my own airplane. It's a privilege. I'm grateful every day for that privilege of being able to do that. I drive a nice car. But really the motivator for me is the ability to experience life, to do things. That's what freedom is all about. It's not having more money than the other guy. I know a lot of very rich, unhappy people.
Yeah. You and I are very, very similar. After an exit, I had the money, great.
Yeah.
But I was very depressed.
Yeah.
Money buys you a whole bunch of don'ts, things you don't have to do or worry about. It gives you the ability to have options.
Yeah.
But it does not fix emotional, mental issues, right? It's cool to have nice things,
Yeah.
but it doesn't bring purpose.
Right.
In fact, I know, like you, plenty of very wealthy people that are miserable.
Yeah.
And I also know wealthy people who buy things and it gives them that hit of dopamine, and then they spend the next 4 hours feeling depressed over the fact their Lamborghini got a scratch on it. The more crap they own, the more angst and pain they feel.
Did you ever hear George Carlin's thing on stuff?
Well, actually, I know I have because I've seen most of his stuff.
It's hysterical.
Yeah.
He does a whole thing about stuff. That's why we have homes.
Oh, yes.
Because we have to have a place for our stuff, and then
you need more
you
stuff.
get more stuff, and then you need a bigger house for more stuff.
you.
Yeah.
He has a documentary on HBO. Obviously, he's no longer with us, so they have one. If you were to replace some of his narratives with today's people, it's all repetitive, and it shows you over the 60 years of his career, the message never changed, and full circle, human beings never changed either.
That's true.
It's about shitty politicians, stupidity of humanity, right?
Yeah.
It never changed. It's very apropos today. And if he was alive today and still doing his comedy, it would be relevant
Yeah.
year after year after year, decade after decade.
True.
He never faded away. Yeah. So we are nearing the end of our trail. Let's cut this way, guys.
This is fun.
See, this is why I do this.
No,
This is my purpose. This is that way, guys.
Yeah, I confess, I was a little skeptical. I was like, we're gonna do what? We're gonna go out and take a hike? And
Well, typically we've done these in warmer conditions, but you were down for the winter, and I wanted to see how it would go. A little sniffly and runny nose. No one slipped and tripped too bad.
Yeah, no.
It's not over yet.
the sniffs are going to be pretty pronounced in the.
That's fine. We'll soften them with filtering.
Yeah.
But
At least you didn't get me on camera going.
I think I got a couple of those in there. Don't worry. You don't want to shake these gloves.
Exactly.
But no, when we're moving, we do our best thinking, right?
Yeah.
Think on your feet. When we're in conversation and moving and hiking, and in this case, it wasn't an extreme hike, but we did have to dodge ice, and there was some element of adventure to it.
Yeah, random dogs with carrying soccer
Your
balls.
conversation, yeah, that was cute actually. The conversation is just a better conversation. It's more flowing. You're not fabricating lies. You're too worried about tripping and falling.
Yeah, good point.
Right? So I get that from guests, that they have a little skepticism on it, but once they go through it, it turned out to be fun and exciting. So do you have any parting words of wisdom?
Parting words of wisdom.
I'm leaving that open ending.
Yeah. The most important advice that I have, and I get this question a lot, what would you tell your 17, 18-year-old self? And first thing I'd say is, calm down, it's going to be okay, because we all worry too much, right?
Okay,
Yeah. And we're all victims of that fear, that, oh my gosh, I'm going to fail, imposter syndrome, all that stuff. So that's the first thing I'd say. But I have three things. And actually the origin of these three things are kind of cool. Happened in a dream. Shortly after becoming CEO, I had this crazy dream, super realistic, like a near-death experience,
Okay.
where you have the bright light and,
Yeah.
And in the dream, I was sent on these three tasks, and I performed the tasks. I didn't know if I was going to be successful or not, but I did each of the things I was told, and I was promised a gift at the end. And then I woke up, and I was like, damn, where's my gift? Come on, that's not fair. Those dreams, you want to go back to sleep, and I want to finish
You can't
this.
put yourself back in.
No, I want to get I want to get the gift.
Yeah.
And I started telling people about this dream. And in particular, I woke up my wife. I was like, hey, I had this dream. I got to tell you about it.
And then she rolled over and said, uh-huh.
Crazy. yeah, I don't want to hear about that.
Careful about what you want to tell me.
Yeah. Exactly. But I wrote down three words: change, confidence, and clarity. And I shared those the next morning, and she said, as did my friends, that's why you are where you are. That is your gift, dummy.
Change, confidence, and clarity.
You've been able to, your whole life, overcome insurmountable things that are, what other people would say make you hopeless. Whether it's divorce of parents or poverty or having a house condemned when you're a little kid and you come home and you see the red sign.
Oh, wow.
You've overcome all that stuff, but you've come out on the other side with a very positive attitude.
Yeah.
And you're able to weather that storm and it's made you stronger. So you can deal with change as crazy as taking over Blockbuster and then having the financial markets melt down, right? You take it in stride, you deal with it. And then you have the confidence somehow to believe you can accomplish anything, whatever you want to do. And that confidence is backed up with preparation because you work your butt off. You're able to be confident because you know that you'll tackle whatever it is that you have to do. And the third is clarity and the ability to take really complex things and make them simple. And so I have to do that because I'm not that smart. So I have to take complex problems and make them simple.
Well, I highly doubt you're not that smart, but I think change, confidence, and clarity will be the title of your episode. I might throw in Blockbuster, change, confidence, and clarity.
There you go.
There you go.
But it applies. I could have bailed.
Very apropos.
Yeah, I could have bailed on Blockbuster. It wasn't my problem. I didn't start it. I was there for a year and a half when it started to melt down. I could have bailed.
Yeah, but your personality wouldn't allow that.
No.
You can't admit failure.
No. Well, and you never fail. I use a Mandela quote. I never lose. I win or I learn.
So you.
Guy was in jail for 20 years, right?
Yeah.
He didn't lose. He studied law while he was there.
What an inspirational human.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
But it's so true.
He didn't let the emotions and the negativity take over.
Exactly.
He had
Could have
every
had
right.
head down.
Yeah, he had every right to start a war.
Exactly. Could have died in prison just from depression, right? But no, he studied, learned the law, came out as president. Yeah, it's a powerful message. And it's so applicable to everybody, It's really the reason behind the book, because the power of knowledge to turn the worst situation into an opportunity is something that too few people really embrace.
Love it. Well, Jim Keys, this was a blockbuster of a hike. I absolutely enjoyed being alongside you, hearing your story. You are a very positive human, and I love to surround myself with positivity. You are clearly very successful. We have set the record straight on the Netflix dilemma.
Exactly.
And you are inspiring the world. Get his book, Education is Freedom. Phenomenal. I know I will be getting it, and I will buy it too.
I actually have a copy for you.
Oh, well, I guess I'm not buying it, but otherwise I would
buy
buy
one
it.
too.
Okay, I'll buy one too.
I need the sale.
Yeah, there you go. But this was a very inspirational journey. I'm happy you said yes. In fact, you were also demonstrating a core value of mine, and that is say yes to every opportunity that aligns with your purpose. It is the reason why I'm here today. It is the reason why you're here today. You say yes to opportunities without even thinking about any other answer.
Bury
And the
cans
world
in a
will
box in the backyard. You have to do that with your kids.
I will bury my cants with my kids. I absolutely love that. So Jim Keys, thank you for hiking with us.
Thank you. This was fun.
Yes, my hands are frozen.
I didn't even have gloves.